Hello, hello, travelers. Welcome in. Today, as you can see, well, sort of see anyway, we are doing our reading stream today. It's been so long. We are doing Tales with Time, and we're here with our new story, or I should say stories, because it's a collection of them. It's the Grimm's um complete fairy tale collection. So Brothers Grimm, Dark Fairy Tale. It's what you guys had been wanting, so we're gonna go with it. Also, hi Chichin and hi Edgelord. I see you in the chat there. Also, my chat bar is doing something really weird. Let me see if I can fix it real quick. It's being weird. Oh no, why is it like that? It's like all scrunched up. Stop doing that. Why are you doing that? Stop it. Stop. Okay. I fixed it. There we go. But anyway, yes, I'm so excited. I do like dark fairy tales, so this will be very interesting. I'm just gonna kind of read them in order. It's a very thick book. Oh, hi, lawyer. There we go. Someone is live today. Hi, lawyer. Welcome in. It's our reading stream today. So get yourself cozy. And get yourself like tucked into bed or with a cozy drink all nice and warm on this, well, for me anyway, it's a snowy night. It started snowing like a couple hours ago, I think. I'm hoping it snows a lot to where I just don't have to go to work tomorrow, but it's probably not it. Did you check Placid Plastic Duck Simulator, the super spooky one? I have not, but I do have it written down on a piece of paper because I have it because I saw you recommend it yesterday, so I wrote it down. I just have not had the time. Like I didn't come home today at all. Usually like between my work shifts, I'll come home and like take a nap or something or do like other stuff. But I did. I wrote it down. But literally today I was out with coworkers all day and it's just a lot. My coworkers are just so much, they're just too much sometimes. And they needed me to hang out with them. So that's what I did all day. And then tomorrow I'm going to be at work literally all day because it's an all day of daycare with the kids. So, but also I've been practicing like my reading and stuff with the kids. I've been reading them books and stuff. Like the other day I was reading, oh, what the fuck was it? What was it? Oh, I was reading The Wild Robot and like some other books. Like we were just reading a bunch of stories. They would just hand me a book and I would just start reading it. And they were like, Miss Pocket, you're so good at reading things. And I'm like, thank you, I know. Granted, these are a bunch of 5-year-olds and they don't know how to read. So it's probably because they don't know how to read. They thought I was really good at it, but it kind of boosted my ego a little bit. So I'm like very excited to read today, actually. I'm also very full of energy because I did. Oh, sorry, I just felt a stitch pop. They're like dissolving in my mouth. Cause that's what they are supposed to do. They're supposed to dissolve, but like I swear I feel like when they like dissolve enough to just snap, cause I can feel it. I feel it in my mouth and my gums. Or maybe I'm just imagining it. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, I had a cup of coffee a little bit ago, which probably is not the best idea. You know, I probably should have had like I don't know, like some tea or something, or something calming. Miss Pocket, you're fucking shit at reading Thomas the Tank Engine. No, I had there was one kid. I like there was like was it onomatopoeia in one of the books, like no like words that make sounds. So like boing or bam, stuff like that. And I was skipping past them because I was like, well, it's like it was a comic book style thing, and I was like, they can see that, like I'm not gonna read that. And the kid was like, Miss Pocket, you're missing some words, and I was like, they're noises. And he was like, yeah, you still have to make the noise. And I was like, okay. I fucked the entire book up, yeah. That's basically what he said. He's like, you're messing it up. Yeah, I agree with the kid. Well, I did end up going and reading them, so I did read all the noises. But yes. Oh, also, when I was out with my coworkers today, I went to a bookstore, and so some bookstores. I went to Barnes and Nobles. They have like like a big plushie bin and stuff, and I found like the one of the best plushies ever, and it's a angler plushie, like like anglerfish, the ones with like the little lanterns on their head and they lure fish in with lanterns. It's in Finding Nemo. And I was like, oh my God, I love it. And so I bought it and I had it at work with me and I was carrying it around all day. Well, for the rest of the day. And the kids were like, that looks so creepy, Miss Pocket. Why do you have that? And I was like, because anglerfish are so cool. And they were like, it has such sharp teeth. It doesn't have sharp teeth. It like has like a felt teeth that look sharp. And I was like, yeah, the better to eat you with. And they were like, no, Miss Pocket, you can't eat us. Um, I ended up naming my pet stuffed anglerfish Anchor, courtesy of one of my coworkers. She gave me the suggestion. I was like, oh my God, that would be perfect. So he is now sitting on my bookshelf, staring at me. He looks a little goofy. I'll have to post a picture of him later, but he's a little bit of a goofy anglerfish. No, oh my gosh, you know my favorite. I'm yapping a little bit, but it's fine. Okay, my favorite thing to tell the kids is I wear like a badge, right? And they're like, Miss Pocket, why do you wear a badge? And I'm like, oh, you don't know? And they're like, no, no what? And I'm like, if I take this badge off, I become a dragon. And they're like, no, you don't, Miss Pocket. And I'm like, yes, I do. Ask, and I'll like say my like coworker's name or something, and they'll churn and they'll ask them, and they're like, does Miss Pocket become a dragon when she takes off her badge? And they're like, oh yeah, we've seen it. She totally does. And I was like, you know what my favorite thing to do as a dragon is? And they're like, what, Miss Pocket? I'm like, I like to eat naughty children. And they're like, oh, well, we're not naughty, are we? And I'm like, I don't know. You guys aren't really sitting in your seats on the bus correctly, are you? And they'll all like whip around in their seats and sit still. They'll like whisper to each other. They're like, we're good kids. We're not naughty kids. Miss Pocket won't eat us if she becomes a dragon. It's one of my favorite things. I have this conversation quite often on the in the morning when we're dropping the kids off to school, and they love it. They love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. They full the older ones, of course, like the like 7, 8, and 9 year olds are like, yeah, right, okay, this lady's fucking crazy. But my like 5 year olds, because I'm in charge of most of the 5 year olds, I have all the kindergartners. They're like, oh my God, Miss Pocket is a dragon, and they'll tell their parents. They're like, did you know Miss Pocket's a dragon? And I'm like, yeah, I eat naughty kids, so be nice. But it's just great. It's great. I'm like mentally trying to prepare myself for tomorrow because like we're very not prepared for this all day of daycare tomorrow, which we really should be, but we just aren't. So I'm like trying to think of activities to do with the kids and stuff. And I think I'm gonna try and do like some more reading stuff with them tomorrow because I really like sitting in like our little sensory area and just reading books and all that stuff. They like it when you read to them. The younger ones do. The older ones couldn't give a shit. Well, no, that's a lie. Some of the older ones like it too, but they like the longer stories and not the little like Dr. Seuss books and stuff. But yeah, this is like my precursor to tomorrow when I'm reading a lot. I guess it depends on what areas I'm in. I was in our gym today. I was playing a dance game. So, but yeah, there's my little like 15-minute yap session. Not even 15 minutes. Oh, I was talking fast today, guys. It was like less than 10 minutes. We are your even smaller children to test on. Yes. Yes, my little travelers. You guys get to. Well, here's the thing. I can't read them dark fairy tale stories, but I can read you guys dark fairy tale stories. So, with the good old gore and whatever else the Grimm's brothers decide to put in there, their creepy stuff. Yes. But I'm so excited. I keep hitting snooze on the ads because I realize I'm talking a lot and the ads keep popping up. Go away. I don't want any ads here. There's no laws against travelers, Batman. Also, you may notice that I do have a little bit of a different setup than our usual Tales with Time. Usually, I have like a little slideshow to go with it, but because there are so many stories and they're all like varying lengths, I was like, I don't want to make a slideshow because that's going to be like a slideshow with like 100 fucking slides on it, and I was like, I ain't doing that shit. So we're kind of just raw dogging it today, and probably for the rest of this book. It's a very long book. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do like it all like each reading stream or if I'm gonna like separate it. We'll see how it goes. But because it is like literally, hold on, let's see how many pages it is. Let me look. It is 600 pages long. So, yes, it's very long. Bunch of different short stories. This is kind of like I want to make it more of like a very like relaxing kind of like just fall asleep to kind of stream, you know? Because guess what? When you guys fall asleep in my streams, I still get the views. So, and you guys can't leave unless I let you go. So, it's better if I put you to sleep. Can we read the story about the evil witch who will boil my bones if I don't eat her lamb testicle stew? Yeah, I'm sure we'll eventually get to that if it's a Grimm's tale. I don't know which one that is, but it sounds very Brothers Grimm style, so. But yes. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and jump in. Of course, before I start each story, I like to go over rules and expectations. You know what? I don't really have any rules or expectations for this, like I would my usual ones, because my usual Tales with Time streams, I read like chapter books that are like that have story and stuff. So I try to read, and then at the end of each chapter. But I think at this, fucking do whatever you fucking want. That's a lie. Don't actually do whatever the fuck you want. Okay, don't like spam in my chat like dick or something. Okay, don't do that. Yeah, I do. I see. Listen, if 5-year-olds can meet my expectations, I think you guys can too. Okay, all right. If 5-year-olds can do it, you guys can too. I have faith. That's a lot of pressure on you. Oh well, I am so sorry. Whatever I want. Hi, fossil. Don't say that word. We don't speak of that word in here, lawyer. We do not say the W word. No, ew. Disgusting. Also, the book I got for this is like a limited edition, and it is so fucking pretty. Like the inside, it's like gold rimmed, and it's got a pretty purple cover, and it's got a like art on the inside. It's very pretty. But yes, I think the first story, is The Frog King, which will be interesting. Some of these I do know, and then some of these I don't know, so this will be really interesting to read. We'll see which story we end on tonight. The Glass Coffin. The fuck is that one? Ooh, Rapunzel. Old Rink Rank. I know none of these. I remember when I was younger, our library had a collection of Brother Grimm's fairy tales. My elementary school, which now that I think back on it, is really weird because Brothers Grimm's are known for their very dark and gory and like not child appropriate fairy tales. Like they're the OG fairy tales, like time appropriate fairy tales. Like what's a good example? Fucking the Rapunzel one is like you just have to look up the original ones and like their meanings and stuff, and you'll understand how actually dark and sadistic the Brothers Grimm's were. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and jump in because I realize I'm almost been talking for like 20 minutes. So, oops. But yes, we are gonna stick with like our little 2-hour stream. Usually you guys fall asleep by like 30 minutes into me reading. So, sure hope this is a great story. It's gonna be multiple great stories, hopefully. The Girl Without Hands. What the fuck is that one? I'm like reading the titles because it has like a contents page. I'm reading the titles of all the stories right now, and I don't know how I feel about some of these. And nothing dies or gets killed. Oh yeah. Like there's literally one. Where is it? I just saw it. Where the fuck? Where'd it go? Where was it? Oh my god, there was one that literally had the weirdest fucking. I just saw it. Oh, The Wolf and the Seven Little Kids. I don't know if I'm gonna like that one. Because I feel like that is alluding to things I will not like. So some of the stories, Gambling Hansel. Wait, there's more to Hansel and Gretel? What? Clever Gretel. Gambling Hansel. Hansel and Gretel. The old man made young again. What the fuck? Oh my god. I want gambling. Me too. Me too. There's a lot. There's a lot of stories. Anyway, we're going on to the first one because I am rambling. Also, my drink of toys, my drink of toys today, is Peace Tea, the peach one. I was gonna do a hot tea, but then I was like, I bought these today, and I was like, nah, I'm just gonna drink these. So, Delicious. All right. Also, if you hear my dog, it is because he has decided to grace our stream with his presence because he wants to lay next to me. Hi, Bug. Hey, yo, you want to come hear the reading? You want to hear the reading? Yeah? Hey, yo, handsome man. Okay, get down. Off the desk. Get off the desk. No, don't look at me like that. You're cute, but not that cute. Get down. Hey, get down. Yeah, okay, said that. My drink of choice today is I'm walking here. Oh my gosh. All right. Okay, for real this time. We're going to get into it. All right, here we go. I'm going to try and pull out my my cool reading voices today. Probably not. I don't ever do reading voices, but anyway, the first story is called The Frog King. In old times, when wishing still helped one, there lived a king whose daughters were all beautiful, but the youngest was so beautiful that the sun itself, which has seen so much, was astonished whenever it shone in her face. Close by the king's castle lay a great dark forest, and under an old lime tree in the forest was a well. And when the day was very warm, the king's child went out into the forest and sat down by the side of the cool fountain. And when she was dull, she took a golden ball and threw it up on high and caught it. Oh, this is old language. I'm reading it and I'm realizing now that this is old language. Y'all gonna have fun with this one. You're gonna be like, what the fuck? You're gonna feel like you're stroking out hearing me talk. Oh, and we got hit with the ads. Love that. Where did I leave off? Oh, la 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 la. Oh, and threw it up on high and caught it. And this ball was her favorite plaything. Now it so happened that on one occasion the princess's golden ball did not fall into the little hand which she was holding up for it, but on the ground beyond, and rolled straight into the water. Yeah, high ads. The king's daughter followed it with her eyes, but it vanished, and the well was deep, so deep that the bottom could not be seen. Oh, buy ads. Oh, those are quick ads. Damn. On this she began to cry, and cried louder and louder, and could not be comforted. And as she thus lamented, someone said to her, "What ails thee, king's daughter? Thou weepest so that even a stone would show pity." The fuck does that mean? Sorry. Also, I am not a professional reader. As you can clearly tell, I like to stop and make little commentaries. That's just me reading. But most of you already know that. For those of you who don't, hello, hi, I'm Pocket of Time. I will literally stop in the middle of a sentence to be like, what the fuck is this saying? But anyway, continuing. She looked round to the side from whence the voice came, and saw a frog stretching forth its thick, ugly head from the water. "Ah, old water splasher, is it thou?" said she. "I am weeping for my golden ball, which has fallen into the well." "Be quiet, and do not weep," answered the frog. "I can help thee. But what wilt thou give me if I bring thy plaything up again?" "Whatever thou wilt have, dear frog," said she. My clothes, my pearls and jewels, and even the golden crown which I am wearing." The frog answered, "I do not care for thy clothes, thy pearls and jewels, or thy golden crown. But if thou wilt love me and let me be thy companion and playfellow, and sit by thee at thy little table, and eat off thy little golden plate, and drink out of thy little cup, and sleep in thy little bed, if thou wilt promise me this, I will go down below and bring thee thy golden ball up again." As Shakespeare once said, "Oh, doth she teach the torches to burn bright," which meant something, but I have no clue what it meant. Yes. Perfect. This reminds me of theater because I'm a theater nerd. Growing up, middle school, high school, I was in theater. And we did a lot of Shakespeare, and this is very Shakespearean. um, "Oh, yes," said she. "I promise thee all thou wishest, if thou wilt but bring me my ball back again." She, however, thought, "How the silly frog does talk. He lives in the water with the other frogs, and croaks, and can be no companion to any human being." But the frog, when he had received this promise, put his head into the water and sank down, and in a short while came swimming up again with the ball in his mouth, and threw it on the grass. The king's daughter was delighted to see her pretty plaything once more, and picked it up and ran away with it. "Wait, wait," said the frog. "Take me with thee. I can't run as thou canst." But what did it avail him to scream his croak, croak after her, as loudly as he could? She did not listen to it, but ran home and soon forgot the poor frog, who was forced to go back into his well again. The next day, when she had seated herself at a table with the king and all the courtiers, and was eating from her little golden plate, something came creeping, splish splash, up the marble staircase. And when it had got to the top, it knocked at the door and cried, "Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me." She ran to see who was outside, but when she opened the door, there sat the frog in front of it. Then she slammed the door to, in great haste, sat down to dinner again, and was quite frightened. The king saw plainly that her heart was beating violently, and said, "My child, what art thou so afraid of? Is there perchance a giant outside who wants to carry thee away?" No," she replied. "It is no giant, but a disgusting frog." "What does a frog want with thee?" "Oh, dear father, yesterday, as I was in the forest sitting by the well, playing, my golden ball fell into the water, and because I cried so, the frog brought it out again for me, and because he insisted so on it, I promised him he should be my companion, but I never thought he would be able to come out of his water, and now he is outside there, and wants to come in to me." In the meantime, it knocked a second time and cried, "Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me. Dost thou not know what thou saidst to me?" I fucking hate, oh my god, Shakespeare, like, language like this just fucking annoys me sometimes. The frog is simping. How old is the princess? Hold up, let's back up. How old is this princess? Because she's the youngest princess. But I played Final Fantasy. I can crush this reading. I'm sure you can, Jijin. I bet you probably are really good at this type of reading. Where was I? Yesterday by the cool waters of the fountain. Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me. Then said the king, "That which thou hast promised must thou perform. Go and let him in." She went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in and followed her, step by step to her chair. There he sat and cried, "Lift me up beside thee." She delayed, until at last the king commanded her to do it. When the frog was once on the chair, he wanted to be on the oh my god. When the frog was once on the chair, he wanted to be on the table. And when he was on the table, he said, "Now push thy little golden plate nearer to me, that we may eat together." She did this, but it was easy to see that she, oh my god. She did this, but it was easy to see that she did not do it willingly. The frog enjoyed what he ate, but almost every mouthful she took choked her. At length he said, "I have eaten and am satisfied. Now I am tired. Carry me into thy little room and make thy little silken bed ready." I kind of hate that they keep saying little, and it's like, I don't like it. And we will both lie down and go to sleep. The king's daughter began to cry, for she was afraid of the cold frog, which she did not like to touch, and which was now to sleep in her pretty clean little bed. But the king grew angry and said, "He who helped thee who thou wert in trouble ought not afterwards be despised by thee." So she took hold of the frog with 2 fingers, carried him upstairs, and put him in a corner. But when she was in bed, he crept to her and said, "I am tired. I want to sleep as well as thou. Lift me up, or I will tell thy father." Then she was terribly angry, and took him up and threw him with all her might against the wall. Now thou wilt be quiet, odious frog," said she. But when he fell down, he was no frog, but a king's son, with beautiful kind eyes. He, by her father's will, was now her dear companion and husband. Then he told her how he had been bewitched by a wicked witch, and how no one could have delivered him from the well but herself, and that tomorrow they would go together into his kingdom. Then they went to sleep, and the next morning, when the sun awoke them, hold on. What the fuck just happened? What just happened? Hold on. She threw him against a wall. He became a prince. And now she's like, "Okay, I guess we're gonna get married because you're actually not a frog and you look pretty." Okay, yeah, all right. Then they went to sleep, and next morning, when the sun awoke them, a carriage came driving up with 8 white horses, which had white ostrich feathers on their heads, and were harnessed with golden chains, and behind stood the young king's servant, faithful Henry. Oh, I guess he gets a name. Why does Henry get a name? Why don't the main characters get a name? Understand true love? Yeah, alright. Faithful Henry had been so unhappy when his master was changed into a frog that he had caused 3 iron bands to be laid round his heart. Faithful Henry is gay. I'm calling it right now. Lest it should burst with grief and sadness. The carriage was to conduct the young king into his kingdom. Faithful Henry helped them both in, and placed himself behind again, and was full of joy because of this deliverance. And when they had driven a part of the way, the king's son heard a cracking behind him, as if something had broken. So he turned round and cried, "Henry, the carriage is breaking." "No, master, it is not the carriage. It is a band from my heart, which was put there in my great pain when you were a frog and imprisoned in the well." Who the fuck is Henry? Again and once again, while they were on their way, something cracked, and each time the king's son thought the carriage was breaking, but it was only the bands which were springing from the heart of faithful Henry, because his master was set free and was happy. Yeah. Don't know what happened to the princess, but I guess Henry's real happy that the prince is back. Okay. That was the end of that first story. Just from that alone, I have a very strong feeling. I know how the rest of these are gonna go. This may not be as relaxing as I thought it was gonna be. I might be cackling the whole fucking time, because what do you mean? That's the story. It went from 0 to 100 real fucking fast. But then again, I guess these stories were written so very long ago. So anyway, the next story, The Giant and the Tailor. A certain tailor, who was great at boasting, but ill at doing, took it into his head to go abroad for a while, and look about the world. As soon as he could manage it, he left his workshop, and wandered on his way, over hill and dale, sometimes hither, sometimes thither, but ever on and on. Once, when he was out, he perceived in the blue distance a steep hill, and behind it a tower reaching to the clouds, which rose up out of a wild, dark forest. "Thunder and lightning!" cried the tailor. "What is that?" And as he was strongly goaded by curiosity, he went boldly towards it. But what made the tailor open his eyes and mouth when he came near it was to see that the tower had legs, and leapt in one bound over the steep hill, and was now standing as an all-powerful giant before him. "What dost thou want here, thou tiny fly's leg?" cried the giant, with a voice as if it were thundering on every side. The tailor whimpered, "I want just to look about and see if I can earn a bit of bread for myself in this forest." "If that is what thou art after," said the giant, "thou mayst have a place with me." "If it must be, why not? What wages shall I receive?" "Thou shalt hear what wages thou shalt have. Every year 365 days, and when it is a leap year, one more into the bargain. Does that suit thee?" Okay. Oh, it's saying every day you will get paid, and when it is a leap year, one more into the bargain, one more day. Okay. Every day you'll get paid, and when there's a leap year, you'll get paid for that day. I got it. All right, replied the tailor, and thought in his own mind, "A man must cut his coat according to his cloth. I will try to get away as fast as I can." On this, the giant said to him, "Go, little ragamuffin, and fetch me a jug of water." "Had I not better bring the well itself at once, and the spring too?" asked the boaster, and went with the pitcher to the water. "What? The well and the spring too?" growled the giant in his beard, for he was rather clownish and stupid, and began to be afraid. "That knave is not a fool. He has a wizard in his body. Be on thy guard, old hand. This is no serving man for thee." When the tailor had brought the water, the giant bade him go into the forest, and cut a couple of blocks of wood and bring them back. Why not the whole forest, at once, with one stroke? The whole forest, young and old, with all that is there, both rough and smooth. asked the little tailor, and went to cut the wood. What? The whole forest, young and old, with all that is there, both rough and smooth, and the well in its spring too? Growled the credulous giant in his beard, and was still more terrified. The knave can do much more than bake apples, and has a wizard in his body. Be on thy guard, old Hans. This is no serving man for thee. I'm trying to. Oh, okay. I understand now. So the tailor saying like, well, if you're asking me to if you want me to do this one thing, you're asking me to bring all this other shit, and the freaking giant's stupid, and he's like, oh my god, he's doing all this stuff. He must be so powerful. I get you. When the tailor had brought the wood, the giant commanded him to shoot 2 or 3 wild boars for supper. Why not rather 1,000 at one shot, and bring them all here? Inquired the ostentatious tailor. What? Cried the timid giant in great terror. Let well alone tonight, and lie down to rest. The giant was so terribly alarmed that he could not close an eye all night long, for thinking what would be the best way to get rid of this accursed sorcerer of a servant. Time brings counsel. Next morning, the giant and the tailor went to a marsh, round which stood a number of willow trees. Then said the giant, Hark thee, tailor, seat thyself on one of the willow branches. I long of all things to see if thou art big enough to bend it down. All at once the tailor was sitting on it, holding his breath and making himself so heavy that the bough bent down. When, however, he was compelled to draw breath, it hurried him, for unfortunately he had not put his goose in his pocket, so high into the air that he never was seen again, and this to the great delight of the giant. What? Okay. If the tailor has not fallen down again, he must be hovering about in the air. That was the end? So the giant put him in a tree, and the tailor made himself so heavy by holding his breath, and then when he sucked in breath, he became light again, and the tree shot him into the sky to never be seen again. Respect. I respect that. Yeah, that's a good way to end a story. The next story. Oh my god, this is great, honestly. I feel like I should find like the more maybe we should read like the Golden Key. Oh, let me see if I can. Tom Thumb. I feel like I know that one. Oh. I want to read like the princess ones. The like Little Red Riding Hood and Rapunzel, the Young Giant. Okay, well, I want to read this next one because this one looks very interesting. It's called The Little Peasant. So we're going to read this one first. There was a certain village wherein no one lived but really rich peasants, and just one poor one, whom they called the Little Peasant. He had not even so much as a cow, and still less money to buy one, and yet he had his wife, and yet he and his wife did so wish to have one. One day, he said to her, Hark you, I have a good thought. There is our gossip the carpenter. He shall make us a wooden calf, and paint it brown, so that it looks like any other, and in time it will certainly get big and be a cow. The woman also liked the idea, and their gossip the carpenter cut and their gossip the carpenter cut and planed the calf, and painted it as it ought to be, and made it with its head hanging down as if it were eating. Next morning, when the cows were being driven out, the little peasant called the cowherd in and said, Look, I have a little calf there, but it is still small and has still to be carried. The cowherd said, All right, and took it in his arms and carried it to the pasture and set it among the grass. The little calf always remained standing like one which was eating, and the cowherd said, It will soon run alone, just look how it eats already. At night, when he was going to drive the herd home again, he said to the calf, if thou canst stand there and eat thy fill, thou canst also go on thy 4 legs. I don't care to drag thee home again in my arms. But the little peasant stood at his door and waited for his little calf, and when the cowherd drove the cows through the village, and the calf was missing, he inquired where it was. The cowherd answered, It is still standing out there eating. It would not stop and come with us. But the little peasant said, "Oh, but I must have my beast back again." Then they went back to the meadow together, but someone had stolen the calf and it was gone. The cowherd said, "It must have run away." The peasant, however, said, "Don't tell me that," and led the cowherd before the mayor, who for his carelessness condemned him to give the peasant a cow for the calf which had run away. And now the little peasant and his wife had the cow for which they had so long wished, and they were heartily glad. But they had no food for it, and could give it nothing to eat, so it soon had to be killed. They salted the flesh, and the peasant went into town and wanted to sell the skin there, so that he might buy a new calf with the proceeds. On the way he passed by a mill, and there sat a raven with broken wings, and out of pity he took him, boo, he took him and wrapped him in the skin. As, however, the weather grew so bad, and there was a storm of rain and wind, he could go no farther, and turned back to the mill and begged for shelter. The miller's wife was alone in the house, and said to the peasant, "Lay thyself on the straw there," and gave him a slice of bread with cheese on it. The peasant ate it, and lay down with the skin beside him, and the woman thought, "He is tired and has gone to sleep." In the meantime came the person. The miller's wife received him well. "My husband is out, so we will have a feast." The peasant listened, and when he heard about feasting, he was vexed that he had been forced to make shift with a slice of bread with cheese on it. Then the woman served up 4 different things: roast meat, salad, cakes, and wine. Just as they were about to sit down and eat, there was a knocking outside. The woman said, "Oh, heavens, it is my husband." She quickly hid the roast meat inside the tiled stove, the wine under the pillow, the salad on the bed, and the cakes under it, and the person in the cupboard in the entrance. Then she opened the door for her husband and said, "Thank heaven thou art back again. There is such a storm, it looks as if the world were coming to an end." The miller saw the peasant lying on the straw and asked, "What is that fellow doing there?" "Ah," said the wife, "the poor knave came in the storm and rain and begged for shelter. So I gave him a bit of bread and cheese, and showed him where the straw was." The man said, "I have no objection, but be quick and get me something to eat." The woman said, "But I have nothing but bread and cheese." "I am contented with anything," replied the husband. "So far as I am concerned, bread and cheese will do," and looked at the peasant and said, "Come and eat some more with me." The peasant did not require to be invited twice, but got up and ate. After this the miller saw the skin in which the raven was, lying on the ground, and asked, "What hast thou there?" The peasant answered, "I have a soothsayer inside it." "Can he foretell anything to me?" said the miller. "Why not?" answered the peasant. "But he only says 4 things, and the 5th he keeps to himself." The miller was curious and said, "Let him foretell something for once." Then the peasant pinched the raven's head, so that he croaked and made a noise like "Krr, krr." Hold on, I don't know why I read it like that. Krr, krr. I don't know how to do the krr. Oh, I should have not had that cup of coffee. I haven't had coffee in fucking forever. Oh my god. It's coursing through my veins. Okay. um, Hi TV, welcome in. We're reading Grimm's Fairy Tales. Welcome in. It's been a while. How are you? Hopefully good. I'm glad to see ya. Where was I? Oh yes. The miller said, "What did he say?" The peasant answered, "In the first place, he says that there's some wine hidden under the pillow." "Bless me!" cried the miller, and went there and found the wine. "Now go on," said he. The peasant made the raven croak again, and said, "In the second place, he says that there is some roast meat in the tiled stove." "Upon my word!" cried the miller, and went thither, and found the roast meat. The peasant made the raven prophesy still more, and said, Thirdly, he says that there is some salad on the bed." Yeah, tilted stove. It's a little slanted, you know. They didn't have proper stoves back in the day. They had like stone stoves, so it was probably a little tilted. um, that would be a fine thing, cried the miller, and went there and found the salad. At last the peasant pinched the raven once more till he croaked, and said, "Fourthly, he says that there are some cakes under the bed." "That would be a fine thing," cried the miller, and looked there and found the cakes. I'm doing good, just busy with 50 personal projects. I need to lock in and get organized again. I feel that so hard. I get that, trust me. Where was I? And now the two sat down to the table together, but the miller's wife was frightened to death, and went to bed and took all the keys with her. The miller would have liked much to know the fifth, but the little peasant said, "First we will quickly eat the four things, for the fifth is something bad." So they ate, and after that they bargained how much the miller was to give for the fifth prophecy, until they agreed on $300. Then the peasant once more pinched the raven's head till he croaked loudly. The miller asked, "What did he say?" The peasant replied, "He says that the devil is hiding outside there in the cupboard in the entrance." The miller said, "The devil must go out," and opened the house door. Then the woman was forced to give up the keys, and the peasant unlocked the cupboard. The parson ran out as fast as he could, and the miller said, "It was true. I saw the black rascal with my—" Oh! Whoa. Okay. I was like reading that, and I was like reading as I went. Yeah, there it is. I was like, I had a feeling since it's very old writing, it was going to have some very old language. We're going to skip that little part right there. It's gonna happen, old writing be the way. Yeah, I ran into that problem when I was reading, what the fuck was it? The King in Yellow. There was a lot of, not kind words in there. So, but I try my best to like skip past this part or change the words, but I was so into like reading it word for word that my brain just, yeah, my mouth moved faster than my brain. I didn't even know about the King in Yellow until I played Fear and Hunger. Oh my gosh, I love the King in Yellow. I love anything like eldritch horror. But anyway, the peasant, however, made off next morning by daybreak with the $300. At home, the small peasant gradually launched out. He built a beautiful house, and the peasant said, "The small peasant has certainly been to the place where gold and snow falls, and people carry the gold home in shovels." Then the small peasant was brought before the mayor, and bidden to say from whence his wealth came. He answered, "I sold my cow's skin in the town for $300. When the peasants heard that, they too wished to enjoy the great profit, and ran home, killed all their cows, and stripped off their skin in order to sell them in the town to the greatest advantage. The mayor, however, said, "But my servants must go first." When she came to the merchant in the town, he did not give her more than $2 for a skin. And when the others came, he did not give them so much, and said, "What can I do with all these skins?" Then the peasants were vexed with that the small peasant should have thus overreached them, wanted to take vengeance on him, and accused him of this treachery before the mayor. The innocent little peasant was unanimously sentenced to death. Oh, and was to be rolled into water and a barrel pierced full of holes. He was led forth, and a priest was brought who was to say a mass for his soul. The others were all obliged to retire to a distance, and when the peasant looked at the priest, he recognized the man who had been with the miller's wife. He said to him, "I set you free from the cupboard. Set me free from the barrel." Yeah, the peasant started an investing tutorial. There's some big references to it into. Oh, really? Oh, I haven't played Fear and Hunger. I've seen, like, I want to do the co-op play, though, if I'm going to play that one. Where was I? Oh, at the same moment up came, with a flock of sheep, the very shepherd who, as the peasant knew, had long been wishing to be a mayor. So he cried with all his might, "No, I will not do it. If the whole world insists on it, I will not do it." The shepherd, hearing that, came up to him and asked, "What art thou about? What is it that thou wilt not do?" The peasant said, "They want to make me mayor, if I will but put myself in the barrel, but I will not do it." The shepherd said, "If nothing more than that is needful in order to be mayor, I would get into the barrel at once." The peasant said, "If thou wilt get in, thou wilt be mayor." Oh my god, he's sacrificing somebody else. That's crazy. Honestly, though, samesies. The shepherd was willing and got in, and the peasant shut the top down on him. The townspeople are watching, though. They're just letting this happen? Okay. Then he took the shepherd's flock for himself and drove it away. A peasant, a real coarse seller. For real. The parson went to the crowd and declared that the mass had been said. Then they came and rolled the barrel toward the water. When the barrel began the roll, the shepherd cried, "I am quite willing to be mayor." They believed no otherwise than that it was the peasant who was saying this, and answered, "That is what we intend, but first thou shalt look about thee a little down below there." And they rolled the barrel down into the water. Oh my god. After that, the peasants went home. And as they didn't recognize that the actual one they were supposed to kill is in the crowd with them, or no, he took no, okay. I read that wrong. He took the shepherd after he convinced the shepherd to get into the barrel. He took the shepherd's like flock and left. As what I'm assuming, unless he was just standing there watching it happen. Otherwise, I don't know what to fucking tell you. Then the peasants were astonished. Oh, wait, hold on. No, I read that. The small peasant also came quietly in, driving a flock of sheep and looking quite contented. Then the peasants were astonished and said, "Peasant, from whence comest thou? Hast thou come out of the water?" "Yes, truly," replied replied the peasant. "I sank deep, deep down until at last I got to the bottom. I pushed the bottom out of the barrel and crept out, and there were pretty meadows on which a number of lambs were feeding, and from thence I brought this flock away with me." These are some stupid people. What the fuck do you mean you trust what he's saying? Then the peasants made up their minds, and they too would fetch some sheep for themselves, a flock apiece. But the mayor said, "I come first." So they went to the water together, and just then there was some of the small fleecy clouds in the blue sky, which are called little lambs, and they were reflected in the water. Whereupon the peasants cried, "We already see the sheep down below." Oh my god, they're so stupid. Oh my goodness. They believe that? Honestly, at this point, good on the little peasant. He's fucking winning in life, I suppose. The mayor pressed forward and said, "I will go down first and look about me, and if things promise well, I'll call you." So he jumped in, splash, went the water. He made a sound as if he were calling them, and the whole crowd plunged in after him as one man. Then the entire village was dead, and the small peasant, as sole heir, became a rich man. guys, how to become rich 101. Trick your whole village into jumping into a lake and drowning themselves. And then you become the only person in the village, therefore you're the richest. So, that one was good. Yeah, I have to agree. I did quite like that one because what the fuck do you mean? Gonna go trick my town into drowning themselves real quick. Yeah, literally, what the fuck? The next one is a really short one. Like, it's a paragraph long. Hold on. I gotta refresh with my peach tea. Like my little slurpy noises. Okay. The next one is really short. A paragraph long. It's called The Golden Key. Okay. I feel like the shorter these are, the more, like, chaotic they are. So, yeah, the short one's gonna be fire. Yeah, I have a feeling this one's gonna be... Watch it be really boring, though. Okay. The Golden Key. In the winter time, when deep snow lay on the ground, a poor boy was forced to go out on a sledge to fetch wood. When he had gathered it together and packed it, he wished, as he was so frozen with cold, not to go home at once, but to light a fire and warm himself a little. So he scraped away the snow, and as he was thus clearing the ground, he found a tiny golden key. Hereupon he thought that where the key was, the lock must also be, and dug in the ground and found an iron chest. "If the key does but fit it," thought he, "no doubt there are precious things in that little box." He searched, but no keyhole was there. At last he discovered one, but so small that it was hardly visible. He tried it, and the key fitted exactly. Then he turned it once round, and now we must wait until he's quite unlocked it and opened the lid. And then we shall learn that the wonderful things were lying in that box. That's it. That was the end of that story. I don't even understand it. He found a key in the dead of winter, dug, found the chest, looked for a keyhole, stuck the key in the keyhole, and then was turning it, and that was it. That was great, yeah. Oh my god, I'm so happy with the rain back. I'm truly a reading environment. I know. You like it, Wind? I thought you would. Maybe it was V-Bucks. I know. I want to know what was in the what was in it. Hmm. Oh, guys, we're back with the tailor in the next story. The next story is called Sharing Joy and Sorrow. We're back with the tailor. I don't think it's the same one, but it's a tailor. Apparently, they really like their tailors in these short stories. Um, there was once a tailor who was a, oh my god, I thought that said something else. Who was a quarrelsome fellow, and his wife, who was good, industrious, and pious, never could please him. I hate when my wife can't please me, you know? Even though she's industrious and pious, but can never please him. Oh my god. Whatever she did, he was not satisfied, but grumbled and scolded, and knocked her about and beat her. What the fuck? Damn. She's fucking industrious and pious, and he's like, nah, smack that bitch around. What the fuck? Okay, whatever. Anyway, as the authorities at last heard of it, they had him summoned and put in, oh, at least he got put in prison, and put in prison in order to make him better. He was kept for a while on bread and water, and then set free again. He was forced, however, to promise not to beat his wife anymore, but to live with her in peace and share joy and sorrow with her, as married people ought to do. Okay. All went on. All went on well for a time, but then he fell into his old ways and was surly and quarrelsome. And because he dared not beat her, he would seize her by her hair and tear it out. Is that not beating? That's beating her. The woman escaped from him and sprang out into the yard, but he ran after her with his yard. I don't know if I like this story. What the fuck? Hold on, let me read a little further ahead before I continue. Oh my god. What the fuck? What is this? Okay, yeah, we're gonna finish reading it, but goddamn, just a fair warning, there's abuse. If you don't want to hear it, just skip, or just, I was gonna say skip a couple minutes, but this is a live stream. Just wait a couple minutes and come back. You went to the wrong bookstore. Yeah, well, no, you guys wanted dark fairy tales, and that's what I'm fucking reading. Apparently, anyway, continuing. He would seize her by the hair and tear it out. The woman escaped from him and sprang out into the yard, but he ran after her with his yard measure and scissors and chased her about and threw the yard measure and scissors at her and whatever else came his way. When he hit her, he laughed, and when he missed her, he stormed and swore. This went on so long that the neighbors came to the wife's assistance. God damn. Well, I don't even know, man. Well, it's Brothers Grimm's fairy tale. If you guys know anything about the Brothers Grimms, yeah, they're a little fucked. So, but they're known for their dark fairy tales. That's why I chose this. But goddamn, didn't know it's like this. The tailor was again summoned before the magistrates, and reminded of his promise. Dear gentlemen, he said, I have kept my word. I have not beaten her, but I've shared joy and sorrow with her. Way to read the fine print, brother. How can that be, said the judge, when she continually brings such heavy complaints against you? I have not beaten her, but just because she looks so strange, I wanted to comb her hair with my hand. She, however, got away from me and left me quite spitefully. Then I hurried after her. What the fuck is this? And in order to bring her back to her duty, I threw at her as a well-meant admonition, whatever came readily to hand. I don't like this story. Oh, thank you. Thank you, TV. Let me take a sip. Hey, it's a five stream streak. Good job, Wins. I don't like this story. Okay, hold on, where was I? And then I hurried after her in order to bring her back to her duty. I threw at her as a well-meant admonition, whatever came readily to hand. I have shared joy and sorrow with her also, for whenever I hit her, I was full of joy, and she of sorrow. And if I missed her, then she was joyful, and I sorry. The judges were not satisfied with his answer, but it gave him the reward he deserved. What was the reward he deserved? What? No, definitely not. I did not like that story. Oh my god. Oh, the Tom Thumb one is coming up here after. There's a short story called The Nail, and then the Tom Thumb one is coming up. I'm excited for that one. I don't know what it's about, but I feel like I know what Tom Thumb is. You like that story? Interesting choice there, lawyer. All right. Anyway, the next story is called The Nail. This one is also very short. It's like a couple paragraphs. A merchant had done good business at the fair. He had sold his wares and lined his money bags with gold and silver. Then he wanted to travel homewards and be in his own house before nightfall. So he packed his trunk with the money on his horse and rode away. At noon he rested in a town, and when he wanted to go farther, the stable boy brought out his horse and said, "A nail is wanting, sir, in the shoe of its left hind foot." "Let it be wanting," answered the merchant. "The shoe will certainly stay on for the 6 miles I have still to go. I am in a hurry." In the afternoon, when he once more alighted and had his horse fed, the stable boy went into the room to him and said, "Sir, a shoe is missing from your horse's left hind foot. Shall I take him to the blacksmith?" "Let it still be wanting," answered the man. "The horse can very well hold out for the couple of miles which remain. I am in haste." He rode forth, but before long the horse began to limp. It had not limped long before it began to stumble, and it had not stumbled long before it fell down and broke its leg. The merchant was forced to leave the horse where it was and unbuckle the trunk, take it on his back, and go home on foot. And there he did not arrive until quite late at night. "And that unlucky nail," said he to himself, "has caused all this disaster. Hasten slowly." Okay, moral of the. So I feel like I feel like a lot of these are like very moral of the story. So the moral of the story is fix your problems before they become worse problems, basically, or like don't rush things, something like that. I don't know what the fucking moral of the story of the fucking sharing joy and sorrow one was. I don't. I couldn't understand it, so I'm happy. Yeah, that's fair. I know it probably feels like I'm speaking gibberish sometimes, and then it probably doesn't help that I stop in the middle of sentences and just like say my own commentary. So there's no morals here, just tragedies. The moral of the story is if you beat your wife, the judges might not understand. Yeah, yeah, I think that's probably gonna happen. I think, or if you beat your husband, they probably wouldn't understand that either. Like, I don't think anyone does. All right. Anyway, next one, Tom Thumb. This one, I feel like I know this one, but also I could be very wrong. But anyway, this one's a long one. I say long. It's like a couple pages long. So, my ex used to beat me. Man, I miss her. Jesus Christ, when. Okay, moving on. Tom Thumb. Fuck. There was once a poor peasant who sat in the man, they like their peasants and their tailors a lot in this. Jesus. There was once a poor peasant who sat in the evening by the hearth and poked the fire, and his wife sat and span. Then he said, "How sad it is that we have no children. With us all is so quiet, and in other houses it is noisy and lively." "Yes," replied the wife and sighed. "Even if we had only one, and it were quite small and only as big as a thumb, I should be quite satisfied, and we would still love it with all our hearts." Now it so happened that the woman fell ill, and after 7 months gave birth to a child that was perfect in all its limbs, but no longer than a thumb. Then said they, "It is as we wished it to be, and it shall be our dear child." And because of its size, they called it they called it Tom Thumb. They did not let it want for food, but the child did not grow taller, but remained as it had been at first. Nevertheless, it looked sensibly out of its eyes, and soon showed itself to be a wise and nimble creature, for everything it did turned out well. How sorrowful it shall be. One day the peasant was getting ready to go into the forest to cut wood, when he said, as if to himself, "How I wish that there was anyone who would bring the cart to me." "Oh, father," cried Tom Thumb, "I will soon bring the cart. Rely on that. It shall be in the forest at the appointed time." The man smiled and said, "How can that be done? Thou art far too small to lead the horse by the reins." "That's of no consequence, father. If my mother will only harness it, I shall sit in the horse's ear and call out to him how he is to go." "Well," answered the man, "for once we will try it." When the time came, the mother harnessed the horse and placed Tom Thumb in its ear, and then the little creature cried, Gee up, gee up, gee up. Wait, is it really gee up? I thought it was giddy up. Is it gee up? Like G-E-E and then up? Gee up? Is that really how it is? I thought it was always giddy up, no? Or maybe this is like the old version of giddy up. Giddy up! Then it went quite properly, as if with its master, and the cart went the right way into the forest. It so happened that just as he was turning a corner, and the little one was crying, "Gee up!" 2 strange men came towards him. "My word," said one of them, "what is this? There is a cart coming, and a driver is calling to the horse, and still he is not to be seen." "That can't be right," said the other. "We will follow the cart and see where it stops." The cart, however, drove right into the forest, and exactly to the place where the woods had been cut. When Tom Thumb saw his father, he cried to him, "Seest thou, father, here I am with the cart, now take me down." The father got hold of the horse with his left hand, and with the right took his little son out of the ear. Tom Thumb sat down quite merrily on a straw, but when the 2 strange men saw him, they did not know what to say for astonishment. Then one of them took the other aside and said, "Hark, the little fellow would make our fortune if we exhibited him in a large town for money. We will buy him." Oh my god. Yes, Ear of the Horse. I understand this book very well. Yeah. They went to the peasant and said, "Sell us the little man. He shall be well treated with us." "No," replied the father. "He is the apple of my eye, and all the money in the world cannot buy him from me." Tom Thumb, however, when he heard of the bargain, had crept up the folds of his father's coat, placed himself on his shoulder, and whispered in his ear, "Father, do give me away. I will soon be back again." Then the father parted with him to the father's just like, yeah, sure, why not? And the father parted with him to the 2 men for a handsome bit of money. "Where wilt thou sit?" they said to him. "Oh, just let me sit on the rim of your hat, and then I can walk backwards and forwards and look at the country, and still not fall down." They did as he wished, and when Tom Thumb had taken leave of his father, they went away with him. They walked until it was dusk, and then the little fellow said, "Do take me down. I want to come down." The man took his hat off, and put the little fellow on the ground by the wayside, and he leapt and crept about a little between the sods, and then he suddenly slipped into a mouse hole which he had sought out. "Good evening. Gentlemen, just go home without me," he cried to them, and mocked them. They ran thither, and stuck their sticks into the mouse hole, but it was all lost labor. Tom Thumb crept still farther in, and as it soon became quite dark, they were forced to go home with their vexation and their empty purses. When Tom Thumb saw that they were gone, he crept back out out of the subterranean passage. "It is so dangerous to walk on the ground in the dark," said he. "How easily a neck or a leg is broken." Fortunately, he knocked against an empty snail shell. "Thank God," said he, "and that I can pass the night in safety," and got into it. Not long after, when he was just going to sleep, he heard 2 men go by, and one of them was saying, "How shall we contrive to get hold of the rich pastor's silver and gold?" "I could tell thee that," cried Tom Thumb, interrupting them. "What was that?" said one of the thieves in fright. "I heard someone speaking." They stood still listening, and Tom Thumb spoke again, and said, "Take me with you, and I'll help you." "But where art thou?" "Just look on the ground, and observe from whence my voice comes," he replied. There the thieves at length found him, and lifted him up. "Thou little imp, how wilt thou help us?" they said. "A great deal," said he. "I will creep into the pastor's room through the iron bars, and will reach out to you whatever you want to have." "Come then," they said, "and we will see what thou canst do." When they got to the pastor's house, Tom Thumb crept into the room, but instantly cried out with all his might, "Do you want to have everything that is here?" The thieves were alarmed, and said, "But do speak softly, so as not to awaken anyone." Tom Thumb, however, behaved as if he had not understood this, and cried again, "What do you want? Do you want to have everything that is here?" The cook, who slept in the next room, heard this, and sat up in bed and listened. The thieves, however, had in their fright run some distance away, but at last they took courage and thought, "The little rascal wants to mock us." They came back and whispered to him, "Come, be serious and reach something out to us." Then Tom Thumb again cried as loudly as he could, "I really will give you everything. Just put your hands in." The maid, who was listening, heard this quite distinctly, and jumped out of bed and rushed to the door. The thieves took flight, and ran as if the wild huntsmen were behind him. But as the maid could not see anything, she went to strike a light. When she came to the place with it, Tom Thumb, unperceived, betook himself to the granary, and the maid, after she had examined every corner and found nothing, lay down in her bed again and believed that, after all, she had only been dreaming with open eyes and ears. Tom Thumb had climbed up among the hay and found a beautiful place to sleep in. There he intended to rest until day, and then go home again to his parents. But he had other things to go through. Truly, there is much affliction and misery in this world. When day dawned, the maid arose from her bed to feed the cows. Her first walk was into the barn, where she laid hold of an armful of hay, and precisely that very one in which poor Tom Thumb was lying asleep. He, however, was sleeping so soundly that he was aware of nothing, and did not wake until he was in the mouth of the cow, who had picked him up with the hay. "Ah, heavens!" cried he, "how have I got into the fulling mill?" But he soon discovered where he was. Then it was necessary to be careful not to let himself go between the teeth and be dismembered. But he was nevertheless forced to slip down into the stomach with the hay. "In this little room the windows are forgotten," said he, "and no sun shines in, neither will a candle be brought." His quarters were especially unpleasing to him, and the worst was, more and more hay was always coming in by the door, and the space grew less and less. Then at length, in his anguish, he cried as loud as he could, "Bring me no more fodder! Bring me no more fodder!" The maid was just milking the cow, and when she heard someone speaking, and saw no one, and perceived that it was the same voice that she had heard in the night, she was so terrified that she slipped off her stool and spilt the milk. She ran in great haste to her master, and said, "Oh, heavens, pastor, the cow has been speaking." "Thou art mad," replied the pastor, but he went himself to the byre to see what was there. Hardly, however, had he set his foot inside when Tom Thumb again cried, "Bring me no more fodder, bring me no more fodder." Then the pastor himself was alarmed, and thought that an evil spirit had gone into the cow, and ordered her to be killed. She was killed, but the stomach, in which Tom Thumb was thrown in the midden. Tom Thumb had great difficulty in working his way, however. Had great difficulty in working his way. However, he succeeded so far as to get some room, but just as he was going to thrust his head out, a new misfortune occurred. A hungry wolf ran thither, and swallowed the whole stomach at one gulp. Tom Thumb did not lose courage. "Perhaps," thought he, "the wolf will listen to what I have got to say," and he called to him from his stomach, "Dear wolf, I know of a magnificent feast for thee." "Where is it to be had?" said the wolf. In such and such a house. Thou must creep into it through the kitchen sink, and wilt find cakes and bacon and sausages, and as much of them as thou canst eat." And he described to him exactly his father's house. The wolf did not require to be told this twice, squeezed himself in at night through the sink, and ate to his heart's content in the larder. When he had eaten his fill, he wanted to go out again, but he had become so big that he could not go out by the same way. Tom Thumb had reckoned on this, and now began to make a violent noise in the wolf's body, and raged and screamed as loudly as he could. "Wilt thou be quiet?" said the wolf. "Thou wilt waken up the people." "A what?" replied the little fellow. "Thou hast eaten thy fill, and I will make merry likewise," and began once more to scream with all his strength. At last his father and mother were aroused by it, and ran to the room and looked in through the opening in the door. When they saw that a wolf was inside, they ran away, and the husband fetched his axe, and the wife the scythe. "Stay behind," said the man, when they entered the room. "When I have given him a blow, if he is not killed by it, thou must cut him down, and hew his body to pieces." Then Tom Thumb heard his parents' voices, and cried, "Dear father, I am here, I am in the wolf's body." Said the father, full of joy, "Thank God, our dear child has found us again," and bade the woman take away her scythe, that Tom Thumb might not be hurt with it. After he raised his arm and struck the wolf such a blow on his head that he fell down dead, and then they got knives and scissors, and cut his body open, and drew the little fellow forth. "Ah," said the father, "what sorrow we have gone through for thy sake." "Yes, father, I have gone about the world a great deal. Thank heaven, I breathe fresh air again." "Where hast thou been, then?" "Ah, father, I have been in a mouse's hole, and a cow's stomach, and then in a wolf's. Now I will stay with you, and we will not sell thee again. No, not for all the riches in the world." And his parents and they embraced and kissed their dear Tom Thumb. They gave him to eat and to drink, and had some new clothes made for him, for his own had been spoiled on his journey. And that was Tom Thumb. Oh, there's another Tom Thumb story, except it's called Tom Thumb Journeyman. Apparently, he decided he wants to go on another journey. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is a longer story. Oh. Freaking Tom Thumb's going on all these fucking journeys. Hold on, let me take another sip of my drink. Oh my gosh, it's already been like an hour? That's crazy. Alright, let's see. Do we want to read Tom Thumb Journeyman, or do we want to read the next story? Which is... Hold on, I'm getting there. Sweet Porridge. Oh. Is this Goldilocks and the Three Bears? Oh, no, it's not. It is not Goldilocks and Three Bears. I thought it was. I'm looking at all the other stories. They have the young giant. They really like their giants, their tailors, and their peasants. Must have been a popular theme then. The elves. Ooh. This one looks interesting. I want to read one that we all know and see like what's the difference. Let me see. Well, let me look at the contents. Let me look at the content page. Let's see if we can find one that we all know. There's Rapunzel. Should we read Rapunzel? Yeah, I think we should read Rapunzel. 77. Okay, hold on. Let me get to that page. Oh, I literally opened right up to it. It was fate. We're gonna read Rapunzel because we all know the story about Rapunzel, long hair and whatnot. All right, here we go. There were once a man and a woman who had long in vain wished for a child. At length, the woman hoped that God was about to grant her desire. These people had a little window at the back of their house from which a splendid garden could be seen, which was full of the most beautiful flowers and herbs. It was a man and a woman, yeah. It was, however, surrounded by a high wall, and no one dared to go into it because it belonged to an enchantress, who had great power and was dreaded by all the world. One day the woman was standing by the window, and looking down into the garden, when she saw a bed which was planted with the most beautiful rampion, which is Rapunzel, and it looked so... Hold on, flipping page. And it looked so fresh and green that she longed for it, and had the greatest desire to eat some. This desire increased every day, and as she knew that she could not get any of it, she quite pined away, and looked pale and miserable. Then her husband was alarmed, and asked, "What aileth thee, dear wife?" "Ah," she replied, "if I can't get some of the rampion, which is in the garden behind our house to eat, I shall die." Okay, dramatic bitch. All right. The man who loved her thought, "Sooner than let thy wife die, bring her some of the rampion thyself, let it cost thee what it will." In the twilight of the evening, he clambered down over the wall into the garden of the enchantress, hastily clutched a handful of rampion, and took it to his wife. She at once made herself a salad of it, and ate it with much relish. She, however, liked it so much, so very much, that the next day she longed for it 3 times as much as before. If he was to have any rest, her husband must once more descend into the garden. Why did I say it like that? Into the garden. In the gloom of the evening, therefore, he let himself down again. But when he had clambered down the wall, he was terribly afraid, for he saw the enchantress standing before him. "How canst thou dare," said she with angry look, "to descend into my garden and steal my rampion like a thief? Thou shalt suffer for it." "Ah," answered he, "let mercy take the place of justice. I only made up my mind to do it out of necessity. My wife saw your rampion from the window, and felt such a longing for it that she would have died if she had not gotten some to eat." Then the enchantress allowed her anger to be softened, and said to him, "If the case be as thou sayest, I will allow thee to take away with thee as much rampion as thou wilt, only I make one condition. Thou must give me the child which thy wife will bring into the world. It shall be well treated, and I will take care of it like a mother." The man in his terror consented to everything, and when the woman was brought to bed, the enchantress appeared at once, gave the child the name of Rapunzel, and took it away with her. Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful child beneath the sun. When she was 12 years old, the enchantress shut her into a tower, which lay in a forest, and had neither stairs nor door, but quite at the top was a little window. When the enchantress wanted to go in, she placed herself beneath it and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Hi, Sludge, welcome in. We're doing Tales of Time. We're reading Brothers Grimm's Fairy Tales. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down thy hair to me. Rapunzel had magnificent long hair. Can you read 50 Shades of Pocket? No. Rapunzel had magnificent long hair, fine as spun gold, and when she heard the voice of the enchantress, she unfastened her braided tresses, wound them round one of the hooks of the window above, and then the hair fell 20 ells down, and the enchantress climbed up by it. After a year or two, it came to pass that the king's son rode through the forest and went by the tower. Then he heard a song, which was so charming that he stood still and listened. This was Rapunzel, who in her solitude passed her time in letting her sweet voice resound. The king's son wanted to climb up to her, and looked for the door of the tower, but none was to be found. He rode home, but the singing had so deeply touched his heart that every day he went out into the forest and listened to it. Once, when he was thus standing behind a tree, he saw that an enchantress came there, and he heard how she cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down thy hair." Then Rapunzel let down the braids of her hair, and the enchantress climbed up to her. "If that is the ladder by which one mounts, I will for once try my fortune," said he. And the next day, when it began to grow dark, he went to the tower and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down thy hair." This is just Romeo and Juliet, but not Romeo and Juliet at all. Yeah, pretty much. Immediately the hair fell down, and the king's son climbed up. At first Rapunzel was terribly frightened when a man such as her eyes had never yet beheld came to her. But the king's son began to talk to her quite like a friend, and told her that his heart had been so stirred that. Okay, first of all, dude, he's coming on a little too strong. You'll stalk this girl for a day after hearing her sing, and then you climb in through her bedroom window and just start talking to her like you know her. Okay. Um, had been so stirred that it had let him have no rest, and he had been forced to see her. Okay. Then Rapunzel lost her fear, and when he asked her if she would take him for her husband, and she saw that he was young and handsome, she thought, "He will love me more than old Dame Gothel does." And she said yes, and laid her hand in his. She said, "I will willingly go away with thee, but I do not know how to get down. Bring with thee a skein of silk every time that thou comest, and I will weave a ladder with it. And when that is ready, I will descend, and thou wilt take me on thy horse." They agreed that until that time he should come to her every evening, for the old woman came by day. The enchantress remarked nothing of this, until once Rapunzel said to her, "Tell me, Dame Gothel, how it happens that you are so much heavier for me to draw up than the young king's son. He is with me in the moment." "Ah, thou wicked child," cried the enchantress, "what do I hear thee say? I thought I had separated thee from all the world, and yet thou hast deceived me." Honestly, though, I'm gonna be honest, if I was Gothel and I heard my kid Rapunzel had a man visiting her without my knowledge, I'd be a little pissed. I'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about, dude?" What do you mean a stranger has been coming in and you've promised to be his wife? What the fuck are you talking about? In her anger, she clutched Rapunzel's beautiful tresses, wrapped them twice around her left hand, seized a pair of scissors with the right, and snip, snap, they were cut off, and the lovely braids lay on the ground. And she was so pitiless that she took poor Rapunzel into a desert where she had to live in great grief and misery. On the same day, however, that she cast out Rapunzel, the enchantress in that evening fastened the braid of hair which she had cut off to the hook of the window, and when the king's son came and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down thy hair," normal relationship goals, when I think we need to have a conversation about your relationships. They sound very not healthy, sir. Anyway, she let the hair down. The king's son ascended, but he did not find his dearest Rapunzel above, but the enchantress, who gazed at him with a wicked and venomous look. Honestly, I'll be so for real. I feel like I'm more on Mother Gothel's side because your adoptive daughter, which by the way, was sold to you by her parents and you've been watching her since she was a literal newborn is telling you that some random dude has been coming into your house and saying, "Oh, I'm going to marry this girl without like my permission as the mother." I'd probably do the same fucking shit. I'd be like, "Bitch, no, we're moving you. You're going. This is weird." My wife, who would beat me, would never talk to me that way. You're mean. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Aha, she cried mockingly. Thou wouldst fetch thy dearest, but the beautiful bird sits no longer singing in the nest. The cat has got it, and will scratch out thy eyes as well. Rapunzel is lost to thee, thou wilt never see her more. The king's son was beside himself with pain, and in his despair he leapt down from the tower. He escaped with his life, but the thorns into which he fell pierced his eyes. Then he wandered quite blind about the forest, ate nothing but roots and berries, and did nothing but lament and weep over the loss of his dearest wife. Thus he roamed about in misery for some years, and at length came to the desert where Rapunzel, with the twins to which she had given birth. What? A boy and a girl live in wretchedness. He heard a voice, and it seemed so familiar to them that he went towards it, and when he approached, Rapunzel knew him and fell on his neck and wept. Two of her tears wetted his eyes, and they grew clear again, and he could see with them as before. He led her to his kingdom, where he was joyfully received, and they lived for a long time afterwards, happy and contented. Okay. All right. Thorns in my eyes. Tasty. That's exactly what I want to hear. The next story, like after this, after Rapunzel, is called Old Rink Rank, and I kind of want to read it just because it sounds really funny. Like, what is Old Rink Rank? We're gonna read this one because I'm very curious as to what it means. Okay, we'll do the gambling one after we read Old Rink Rank because I like the sound of Old Rink Rank. It sounds funny. Okay. There was one. This one isn't a very long one either. So, okay. There was once there was once on a time a king who had a daughter, and he caused a glass mountain to be made, and said that whoever could cross to the other side of it without falling should have his daughter to wife. Then there was one who loved the king's daughter, and he asked the king if he might have her. Yes, said the king, if you can cross the mountain without falling, you shall have her. And the princess said she would go over it with him, and would hold him if he were about to fall. So they set out together to go over it. This is not as funny as I thought it was gonna be. Where's the old rink rank? What is an old rink rank? I guess we're gonna find out. So they set out together to go over it. And when they were halfway up, the princess slipped and fell, and the glass mountain opened and shut her up inside it. And her betrothed could not see where she had gone, for the mountain closed immediately. Then he wept and lamented much, and the king was miserable too, and had the mountain broken open, where she had been lost, and thought he would be able to get her out again, but they could not find the place into which she had fallen. Meanwhile, the king's daughter had fallen quite deep into the earth, into a great cave. An old fellow with a very long grey beard came to meet her, and told her that if she would be his servant and do everything he bade her, she might live. If not, he would kill her. I don't think I like Old Rink Rank. I have a feeling I know where this is going. Damn it. I thought this was going to be a funny story. So she did all he bade her. In the mornings he took his ladder out of his pocket and set it up against the mountain and climbed to the top by its help. And then he drew up the ladder after him. The princess had to cook his dinner, make his bed, and do all of his work. And when he came home again, he always brought with him a heap of gold and silver. When she had lived with him for many years and had grown quite old, he called her Mother Mansrot, and she had to call him Old Rink Rank. Then once when he was out, and she had made his bed and washed his dishes, she shut the doors and windows all fast, and there was one little window through which the light shone in, and this she left open. When Old Rink Rank came home, he knocked at his door and cried, Mother Mansrot, open the door for me. No, she said, Old Rink Rank, I will not open the door for thee. Then he said, Here stand I, poor Rink Rank, on my 17 long shanks, on my weary worn-out foot. Wash my dishes, Mother Mansrot. I have washed thy dishes already, said she. Then again he said, Here stand I, poor Rink Rank, on my 17 long shanks, on my weary worn-out foot. Wash my dishes, Mother Mansrot. I have made thy bed already, said she. Then again he said, Here stand I, poor Rinkrank, on my 17 long shanks, on my weary worn out foot, wash my dishes, mother man's wrought. Then he ran all around his house, and saw that the little window was open, and thought, I will look in and see what she can be about, and why she will not open the door for me. He tried to peep in, but could not get his head through because of his long beard. So he first put his beard through the open window, but just as he got it... Hi, lawyer. But just as he had got it through, Mother Mansrot came by and pulled the window down with a cord which she had tied to it, and his beard was shut fast in it. Then he began to cry most pitifully, for it hurt him very much, and to entreat her to release him again. But she said not until he gave her the ladder which he ascended the mountain. Then, whether he would or not, he had to tell her where the ladder was. And she fastened a very long ribbon to the window, and then she set up the ladder, and ascended the mountain, and when she was at the top of it, she opened the window. She went to her father, and told him all that had happened to her. The king rejoiced greatly, and her betrothed was still there, and they went and dug up the mountain, and found old Rinkrank inside it, with all his gold and silver. Then the king had old Rinkrank put to death, and took all his gold and silver. The princess married her betrothed, and lived right happily in great magnificence and joy. Okay, but isn't she an old lady now? I don't understand what that was. I don't understand that story. Then again, I don't understand half the stories. So let's see. Let's see if we can find the gambling one. Oh, gambling Hansel. Oh, 371. God damn. Okay. 371. Let us find it. Oh, almost there. Whoop. 371. Gambling Hansel. Once upon a time, there was a man who did nothing but gamble, and for that reason people never called him anything but Gambling Hansel. And as he never ceased to gamble, he played away his house and all that he had. Now the very day before his creditors were to take his house from him, came the Lord and St. Peter, and asked him to give them shelter for the night. Then Gambling Hansel said, "From our part you may stay the night, but I cannot give you a bed or anything to eat." Me when CS2. So the Lord said he was just to take them in, and they themselves would buy something to eat, to which Gambling Hansel made no objection. Thereupon St. Peter gave him 3 groschen, and said he was going to go to the baker's and fetch some bread. So Gambling Hansel went, but when he reached the house where the other gambling vagabonds were gathered together, they, although they had won all that he had, greeted him clamorously and said, "Hansel, do come in." "Oh," he said, "do you want to win the 3 groschen too?" On this they would not let him go, so he went in and played away the 3 groschen also. Meanwhile St. Peter and the Lord were waiting, and as he was so long in coming, they set out to meet him. When Gambling Hansel came, however, he pretended that the money had fallen into the gutter, and kept raking about in it all while to find it. But our Lord had already knew that he had lost it in play. St. Peter again gave him 3 groschen, and now he did not allow himself to be led away once more, but fetched them the loaf. Our Lord then inquired if he had no wine, and said, "Alack, sir, the casks are all empty." We're going to leave stream running, but I'm turning in. You have a good night, Wins. Have a good rest. Where was I? Fuck, I lost it. Where was I? Oh. Alack, sir, the casks are all empty. But the Lord said he was to go down into the cellar, for the best wine was still there. For a long time he would not believe this, but at length he said, "Well, I will go down, but I know that there is none there." When he turned the tap, however, lo and behold, the best of wine ran out. So he took it to them, and the two passed the night there. Early next day, our Lord told Gambling Hansel that he might beg 3 favors. The Lord expected that he would ask to go to heaven, but Gambling Hansel asked for a pack of cards, with which he could win everything. For dice with which he could win Hansel asked for a pack of cards with which he could win everything, for dice with which he could win everything, and for a tree whereon every kind of fruit would grow, and from which no one had climbed up, could descend until he bade him to do so. The Lord gave him all that he had asked, and departed with St. Peter. And now Gambling Hansel at once, set about gambling in real earnest, and before long he had gained half the world. Upon this St. Peter said to the Lord, Lord, this thing must not go on. He will win and thou lose the whole world. We must send death to him. What the moral is to always gamble. Yeah, that's the moral. When Death appeared, Gambling Hansel had just seated himself at the gambling table, and Death said, "Hansel, come out a while." But Gambling Hansel said, "Just wait a little until the game is done, and in the meantime, get up into that tree out there and gather a little fruit that we may have something to munch on our way." Thereupon Death climbed up, but when he wanted to come down again, he could not, and Gambling Hansel left him up there for 7 years, during which time no one died. So St. Peter said to the Lord, Lord, this thing must not go on. People no longer die. We must go ourselves." I choked. And they went themselves, and the Lord commanded Hansel to let Death come down. So Hansel went at once to Death and said to him, "Come down." And Death took him directly and put an end to him. They went away together and came to the next world. And then Gambling Hansel made straight to the door of heaven and knocked at it. Who is there? Gambling Hansel. "Ah, we will have nothing to do with him. Begone." So he went to the door of purgatory and knocked once more. Who is there? Gambling Hansel. "Ah, there is quite enough weeping and wailing here without him. We do not want to gamble. Just go away again." Then he went to the door of hell, and there they let him in. There was, however, no one at home but old Lucifer and the crooked devils who had just been doing their evil work in the world. And no sooner was Hansel there than he sat down to gamble again. Lucifer, however, had nothing to lose but his misshapen devils, and Gambling Hansel won them from him, as which his cards could, as with his cards he could not fail to do. And now he was off again with his crooked devils, and they went to Hohenfjord and pulled up a hop pole, and with it went to heaven and began to thrust the pole against it, and heaven began to crack. So again St. Peter said, "Lord, this thing cannot go on. We must let him in, or he will throw us down from heaven." And they let him in. But Gambling Hansel instantly Gambling Hansel's like a fucking cockroach. They just can't get rid of him. But Gambling Hansel instantly began to play again. And there was such a noise and confusion that there was no hearing what they themselves were saying. Therefore St. Peter once more said, "Lord, this cannot go on. We must throw him down, or we will make all of heaven rebellious." So they went to him at once and threw him down, and his soul broke into fragments and went into gambling vagabonds who are living this very day. Oh, okay. So he finally, well, he didn't die. His soul just got separated and became basically gambling addiction, and everyone who has gambling addiction. So yeah, it's great. It's great. Apparently, I don't know if these are all in order of like when they were like made, but there's literally they apparently really like the name Hansel and Gretel, because the next story is Hansel and Gretel, and I think after that is Gretel's story or something. We should read Hansel and Gretel. Should we read Hansel and Gretel? Yeah, let's read Hansel and Gretel next. Let me take a little. You can take a gambler from casino, but not casino from a gambler. Oh, that tastes good. All right, here we go. Hansel and Gretel. Hard by a great forest dwelt. Oh my god, I don't know why I read it like that. Hard by a great forest dwelt a poor woodcutter with his wife and his 2 children. The boy was called Hansel, and the girl Gretel. He had little to bite and to break, and once, when great scarcity fell in the land, he could no longer procure daily bread. Now, when he thought over this by night in his bed, and tossed about in his anxiety, he groaned and said to his wife, "What is to become of us? How are we to feed our poor children, when we no longer have anything even for ourselves?" "I'll tell you what, husband," answered the woman. "Early tomorrow morning we will take the children out into the forest, where it is thickest. There we will light a fire for them, and give each of them 1 piece of bread more, and then we will go to our work and leave them alone. They will not find the way home again, and we shall be rid of them." Moral of the story: if you're broke and you can't pay for food, just leave your kids in the forest. Don't actually do that. That's fucking horrible. But I like that their immediate response was, "We gotta get rid of the kids. They're the problem." Oh my god. "No, wife," said to the man, "I will not do that. How can I bear to leave my children alone in the forest? The wild animals would soon come and tear them to pieces." Already took the advice. Did you leave your kids in the forest, lawyer? Did you leave them? You do know I'm a mandated reporter, right? Yeah, I'm a mandated reporter. Did you leave your kids in the forest? I think they could follow the the crow's advice. Oh my god, the fucking crow. Oh my god, I went to the pet store today. Quick little side rant here. I went to the pet store today, and there was a little, like they have little like the birds and stuff, and I was like looking at the birds and stuff, and I just kept remembering the game, and I'm like, man, this bird is probably cussing me out right now. Anyway. "Oh, thou fool," said she, "then we must all four die of hunger. Thou mayest as well plane the planks for our coffins." And she left him no peace until he consented. Basically said, "Bitch, you better fucking get rid of the kids, or I'm gonna kill you myself," is what she said. "But I feel very sorry for the poor children, all the same," said the man. The two children had also not been able to sleep for hunger, and had heard what their stepmother, oh, it's a stepmother, okay, makes a little more sense, I guess, had said to their father. Gretel wept bitter tears and said to Hansel, "Now all is over with us." "Be quiet, Gretel," said Hansel. "Do not distress thyself. I will soon find a way to help us." And when the old folks had fallen asleep, he got up, put on his little coat, opened the door below, and crept outside. The moon shone brightly, and the white pebbles which lay in front of the house glittered like real silver pennies. Hansel stooped and put as many of them in his little pocket of his coat as he could possibly get in. Then he went back in and said to Gretel, "Be comforted, dear little sister, and sleep in peace. God will not forsake us." And he lay down again in his bed. When the day dawned, but before the sun had risen, the woman came and awoke the two children, saying, "Get up, you, you sluggards." What does that mean? Sluggards. I feel like I've never heard that word before. I'm gonna look it up. I'm very curious. What does sluggards mean? I've never heard that word before, but it's very funny. Sluggards meaning a lazy, sluggish person. Okay, that figures. That checks. You guys are a bunch of sluggards. I fucking like that word. Oh, where was I? Oh shit. Where is it? Oh. "We are going into the forest to fetch wood." She gave each a little piece of bread and said, "There is something for your dinner, but do not eat it up before then, for you will get nothing else." Gretel took the bread under her apron, as Hansel had the stones in his pocket. Then they all set out together on the way to the forest. When they had walked a short time, Hansel stood still and peeped back at the house, and did so again and again. His father said, "Hansel, what art thou looking at there and staying behind for? Mind what thou art about, and do not forget how to use thy legs." "Ah, father," said Hansel, "I am looking at my little white cat, which is sitting up on the roof and wants to say good-bye to me." The wife said, "Fool, that is not thy little cat. That is the morning sun which is shining on the chimneys." Hansel, however, had not been looking back at the cat, but had been constantly throwing one of his white pebble stones out of his pocket on the road. When they had reached the middle of the forest, the father said, "Now, children, pile up some wood, and I will light a fire that you may not be cold." Hansel and Gretel gathered brushwood together, as high as a little hill. The brushwood was lighted, and when the flames were burning very high, the woman said, now, children, lay yourselves down by the fire and rest. We will go into the forest and cut some wood. When we have done, we will come back and fetch you away." Hansel and Gretel sat by the fire, and when noon came, each ate a little piece of bread. And as they heard the strokes of wood axe, they believed that their father was near. It was not, however, the axe. It was a branch which he had fastened to a withered tree, which the wind was blowing backwards and forwards. And as they had been sitting such a long time, their eyes shut with fatigue, and they fell fast asleep. When at last they awoke, it was already dark. Dark night. Gretel began to cry and said, "How are we to get out of the forest now?" But Hansel comforted her and said, "Just wait a little, until the moon has risen, and then we will soon find the way." And when the full moon had risen, Hansel took his little sister by the hand, and followed the pebbles which shone like newly coined silver pieces, and showed them the way. They walked the whole night long, and by break of day came once more to their father's house. They knocked at the door, and when the woman opened it and saw that it was Hansel and Gretel, she said, "You naughty children, why have you slept so long in the forest? We thought you were never coming back at all." The father, however, rejoiced, for it had cut him to the heart to leave them behind alone. Not long afterwards there was once more great scarcity in all parts, and the children heard their mother saying at night to their father, "Everything is eaten again. We have one half loaf left, and after that there is an end. The children must go. We will take them farther into the woods, so that they will not find their way out again. There is no other means of saving ourselves." I mean, we could get rid of the stepmother, but okay. The man's heart was heavy, and he thought, "It would be better for thee to share the last mouthful with thy children." The woman, however, would listen to nothing that he had to say, but scolded and reproached him. He who says A must say B, likewise, and as he had yielded the first time, he had to do so a second time also. The children were, however, still awake and had heard the conversation. When the old folks were asleep, Hansel again got up and wanted to go out and pick up pebbles as he had done before. But the woman had locked the door, and Hansel could not get out. Nevertheless, he comforted his little sister and said, "Do not cry, Gretel. Go to sleep quietly. The good God will help us." Early in the morning came the woman, and took the children out of their beds. Their bit of bread was given to them, but it was still smaller than the time before. On the way into the forest, Hansel crumbled his in his pocket, and often stood still and threw a morsel on the ground. "Hansel, why does thou stop and look around?" Bread. I know, bread sounds so good right now," said the father. "Go on." "I am looking back at my little pigeon which is sitting on the roof, and wants to say good-bye to me," answered Hansel. "Simpleton," said the woman, "that is not thy little pigeon. That is the morning sun that is shining on the chimney." Hansel, however, little by little, threw all the crumbs on the path. The woman led the children still deeper into the forest, where they had never in their lives been before. Then a great fire was again made, and the mother said, Just sit there, you children, and when you are tired, you may sleep a little. We are going into the forest to cut wood, and in the evening, when we are done, we will come and fetch you away." When it was noon, Gretel shared her piece of bread with Hansel, who had scattered his by the way. Then they fell asleep, and evening came and went, but no one came to the poor children. They did not wake until it was dark night. And Hansel comforted his sister and said, "Just wait, Gretel, until the moon rises, and then we shall see the crumbs of bread which I have strewn about. They will show us our way home again." When the moon came, they set out, but they found no crumbs, for the many thousands of birds which fly about in the woods and fields had picked them all up. Hansel said to Gretel, "We shall soon find the way," but they did not find it. They walked the whole night and all the next day too, from morning till evening, but they did not get out of the forest, and were very hungry, for they had nothing to eat but 2 or 3 berries which grew on the ground, and as they were so weary that their legs would carry them no longer, they lay down beneath a tree and fell asleep. Yeah, stupid birds. It was now 3 mornings since they had left their father's house. They began to walk again, but they always got deeper into the forest, and if help did not come soon, they must die of hunger and weariness. When it was midday, they saw a beautiful snow-white bird sitting on a bough, which sang so delightfully that they stood still and listened to it. And when it had finished its song, it spread its wings and flew away before them, and they followed it until they reached a little house, on the roof of which it alighted. And when they came quite up to the little house, they saw that it was built of bread and covered with cakes, but that the windows were of clear sugar. Listen, not all birds are great, you know. I'm the greatest bird, obviously, but not all of us are great. Some of us are assholes. We will set to work, we will set to work on that," said Hansel, "and have a good meal. I will eat a bit of the roof, and thou, Gretel, canst eat some of the window. It will taste sweet." Hansel reached up above and broke off a little of the roof to try how it tasted, and Gretel leaned against the window and nibbled at the panes. Then a soft voice cried from the room, "Nibble, nibble, gnaw, who is nibbling at my house?" The children answered, the wind, the heaven-born wind," and went on eating without disturbing themselves. Hansel, who thought the roof tasted very nice, tore down a great piece of it, and Gretel pushed out the whole of one round window pane, sat down, and enjoyed herself with it. Suddenly the door opened, and a very, very old woman, who supported herself on crutches, came creeping out. Hansel and Gretel were so terribly frightened that they let fall what they had in their hands. The old woman, however, nodded her head and said, "Oh, you dear children, who has brought you here? Do come in and stay with me. No harm shall happen to you." She took them both by the hand and led them into her little house. Then good food was set before them, milk and pancakes with sugar, apples, and nuts. Afterward, two pretty little beds were covered with clean white linen, and Hansel and Gretel lay down in them, and thought they were in heaven. The old woman had only pretended to be so kind. She was in reality a wicked witch, who lay in wait for children, and had only built the little house of bread in order to entice them there. When a child fell into her power, she she killed it and cooked it and ate it. And that was a feast day with her. Witches have red eyes and cannot see far, but they have a keen scent like the beast, and are aware when human beings draw near. When Hansel and Gretel came into her neighborhood, she laughed maliciously and said mockingly, "I have them, they shall not escape me again." Cooked children, Jesus. Oh my God. Early in the morning, before the children were awake, she was already up, and when she saw both of them sleeping and looking so pretty, with their plump red cheeks, she muttered to herself, "That will be a dainty mouthful." Then she seized Hansel with her shriveled hand, carried him into a little stable, and shut him in with a grated door. He might scream as he liked, that was of no use. He might scream as he liked. That was of no use. Then she went to Gretel, shook her till she awoke, and cried, "Get up, lazy thing, fetch some water and cook something good for thy brother. He is in the stable outside, and is to be made fat. When he is fat I will eat him." Gretel began to weep bitterly, but it was all in vain. She was forced to do what the wicked witch ordered her. And now the best food was cooked for poor Hansel, but Gretel got nothing but crab shells. Every morning the woman crept to the little stable and cried, "Hansel, stretch out thy finger that I may feel if thou wilt soon be fat." Hansel, however, stretched out a little bone to her, and the old woman, who had dim eyes, could not see it, and thought it was Hansel's finger, and was astonished that there was no way of fattening him. When 4 weeks had gone by, and Hansel still continued thin, she was seized with impatience and would not wait any longer. You know what this reminded me of today? Sorry, a little side rant again. Today, one of my kids was drawing and was like, "Miss Pocket, I'm gonna draw a picture of you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so he drew the picture, and I looked at it, and I was like, "Oh, why do I look so big in this picture?" And he was like, "Let me explain." And he pointed at the legs, and they were like shaped like S's. And he's like, "Your legs look like that because you have curvy legs." And I was like, "Oh." And then he pointed at like the body portion, and he was like, "You look like that because you're big." And I was like, thank you so much for that." And he's like, "Yeah, you're just so tall." And I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." It's like, because that's what you meant, right? These kids sometimes, I swear. Where was I at? Oh, hola, Gretel. She said hola? Oh, yeah, she does say hola. "Hola, Gretel," she cried to the girl. "Be active and bring some water." Horizontally challenged. I'm not that tall. I'm like realistically 5'3". I'm not tall. Well, I guess to a 5-year-old I'm considered very tall, but be active and bring some water. Let Hansel be fat or lean. Tomorrow I will kill him and cook him. Ah, how the poor little sister did lament when she had to fetch the water, and how her tears did flow down her cheeks. "Dear God, do help us," she cried. "If the wild beasts in the forest had but devoured us, we should at any rate have died together." "Just keep thy noise to thyself," said the old woman. "All that won't help thee at all." Early in the morning, Gretel had to go out and hang up the cauldron with the water, and light the fire. "We will bake first," said the old woman. "I have already heated the oven and kneaded the dough." She pushed poor Gretel out to the oven, from which flames of fire were already darting. "Creep in," said the witch, "and see if it is properly heated, so that we can shut the bread in." And when once Gretel was inside, she intended to shut the oven and let her bake in it, and then she would eat her too. But Gretel saw what she had in her mind, and said, "I do not know how I am to do it. How do you get in?" Silly goose, said the old woman. The door is big enough. Just look, I can get in myself. And she crept up and thrust her head into the oven. Then Gretel gave her a push that drove her far into it, and shut the iron door and fastened the bolt. Oh, then she began to howl quite horribly, but Gretel ran away, and the godless witch was miserably burnt to death. Gretel, however, ran like lightning to Hansel, opened his little stable, and cried, Hansel, we are saved, the old witch is dead. Then Hansel sprang out like a bird from its cage, when the door is opened for it. How they did rejoice and embrace each other, and dance about and kiss each other. And as they had no longer any need to fear her, they went into the witch's house, and in every corner there stood chests full of pearls and jewels. These are far better than pebbles, said Hansel, and thrust into his pockets whatever could be gotten. And Gretel said, I too will take something home with me, and filled her pinafore full. But now we will go away, said Hansel, that we may get out of the witch's forest. When they had walked for 2 hours, they came to a great piece of water. We cannot get over, said Hansel. I see no footplank and no bridge, and no boat crosses either, answered Gretel. But a white duck is swimming there. If I ask her, she will help us over. Then she cried, little duck, dost thou see? Hansel and Gretel are waiting for thee. There's never a plank or a bridge in sight. Take us across on thy back so white. The duck came to them, and Hansel seated himself on its back, and told his sister to sit by him. No, replied Gretel, that will be too heavy for the little duck. She shall take us across one after the other. The good little duck did so, and when they were once safely across and had walked for a short time, the forest seemed to be more and more familiar to them, and at length they saw from afar their father's house. Then they began to run, rushed into the parlor, and threw themselves into their father's arms. The man had not known one happy hour since he had left the children in the forest. The woman, however, was dead. What? How did she die? Did he kill her? Gretel emptied her pinafore until pearls and precious stones ran about the room, and Hansel threw one handful after another out of his pocket to add to them. Then all anxiety was at an end, and they lived together in perfect happiness. My tale is done. There runs a mouse. Whoever catches it may take himself a big fur cap out of it. Okay. All right. I didn't know there was like that little extra bit from Hansel and Gretel. No, I could have swore that in the Brothers Grimm's fairy tale, they ended up eating the witch. Like, or maybe, was that a movie? Maybe I'm thinking of a movie. It might have been a movie I'm thinking of. But anyway, we read some dark fairy tales today. Don't leave quite yet. We're gonna go raid someone. Also, I'm gonna talk about our schedule and stuff for tomorrow. But those were interesting. Those were interesting. I don't know if I'll read more of them. We might find just another. You go night night. Yeah, you have a good night. You have a good night, lawyer. I don't know. I might find like another like actual book to read. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I quite liked it. There were some goofy little. Well, I shouldn't say goofy. There were some interesting stories on there. I will say. But tomorrow, Friday, we are starting Silent Hill F. Yay! I'm so excited. No, actually I am excited to play it. I'm just a little nervous about my least favorite part, but I'm sure it'll be fine. But yeah, Silent Hill F tomorrow. Don't leave just yet. We're gonna go raid. Also, for those of you who haven't heard yet, we did drop our merch the other day. The link is in my Discord, which let me see if it'll work. If not, I will pull it up myself. Yeah, there we go. There's the Discord link. So if you're not part of Discord, you can go hop there. It's also on my TikTok under Pocket of Time. But yes, we have a hoodie, we've got a cup, we've got pins, and we've got a sticker sheet. We got some cool ass shit. Okay, so go check it out. But yes, let's find someone to raid real quick. Let's see, who we gonna raid? Oh, give me a minute. Stretch. Also, I did start a new charity goal. It is to Child Mind Institute. They help children with like who have special needs or who have mental health problems that need help and stuff like that. So it's very good program or charity. So I decided that was going to be our next one. Let's go raid Slacker. We're gonna go raid Slacker today. Let's see what he's slacking over. Do, do, do. But yes, anyway, I hope you travelers have a good night, day, whatever it may be for you. And bye-bye.